Hey, it's Nigel, and welcome back to the Krewe of Japan podcast. Well, we've finally done it, listeners. We've reached the last day of 2021. And in today's episode, we're going to do a recap of the biggest events that happened in Japan in 2021. We'll be talking about things like the Tokyo 2021 Olympics.
And the marathons, those were super fun because I'm like, wow, they're running in like picturesque Japan, and like I hope they're appreciating this because, you know, this is like I would be dying for these views right now.
Shohei Ohtani emerging as an elite baseball phenomenon.
It's such a really cool thing, again, in the year when the Olympics are taking place, this juxtaposition of Japanese athletes succeeding at a high level on a global stage outside of Japan.
And a few random fun stories here or there too.
Somehow this made news. I don't know why, but over years, dogs have peed on this this traffic light in Mie Prefecture, and it suddenly in February snapped at the base.
Welcome back to the Krewe of Japan podcast, a weekly podcast where we take you on audio journeys through Japanese culture. Let's dive right on in. Okay, so welcome back to another episode of the Krewe of Japan podcast. This week is actually the final episode of the year and the final day of the year. Go figure. So today I actually have my co-host with me. I have Jenn and Doug. What's up?
Yo.
Hi.
Awesome. Okay, so being that this is the last episode of the year and the last day, today we're going to actually discuss the major news events of 2021 in Japan. Major as in important things that happened, but also fun/silly stuff that we thought that was really cool. So, like I said, this is kind of a Japan 2021 in review. So, before we dive into our specific stories and things that we found interesting, what do y'all have? Just, general thoughts on the year.
Well, for me, 2021 was a roller coaster. Personally, I started the year off great by breaking my foot on the 5th day of the year.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
wow.
you remember that? We started the podcast with me in like a cast and having to climb up the stairs, like doing dips, coming up and down the stairs, and
I
be
will
like, "Hey guys,
record this episode."
I will get to my audio equipment." And then I became a father of 2 instead of father of 1 in October. So it's been a pretty wild and crazy year for me. Lots of ups and downs, job changes, and all that fun stuff. So, 2021 will be one to remember. It won't be as, well, I don't know if it's as wild as 2020. I don't think 2020 is really hard to top for everybody.
Yeah.
Right. So, but 2021 was good. And honestly, this podcast has been one of the best parts of, my life from 2021. Hanging out with you guys and recording all these awesome episodes and doing that. So that was really fun to kick off.
Yeah, I have to say 2021, I don't know. It kind of just reminds me of 2020, but not as dramatic. It was more like...
That's fair.
Yeah, like not as dramatic, but the same outcomes. So like my job, is to take students to Japan, and obviously that didn't happen again in 2021. So, delivering more disappointment to people. But
you also got to deliver hope potentially in 2021.
Hopefully we'll see if we'll see if that happens. I'm praying. I'm praying very hard. But yeah, no, just, I agree with Doug. This podcast has been a saving grace for 2021 for me. I really enjoy it, especially since, Japan Society of New Orleans, we usually have a bunch of stuff going on. Like, if you were a member in 2019 or 18, we were popping with all sorts of events. And then, COVID hit and everything just went haywire. And it's hard because a lot of like the events were actually my events. I ran them. So, a lot of stuff had to go on hiatus because it just doesn't mesh well with internet stuff. So yeah, it's just Thank God for this podcast.
Yeah, no, it's just some of those programs, like you said, they just were better suited in person than getting people on a WebEx or a Zoom call or something. It's not the same,
Yeah, because we do it for our book club, but geez, like there's, I don't know, just it doesn't hit the same.
Yeah. If you aren't a member, though, of Japan Society, and you are in the greater New Orleans area, or in the Gulf Coast, feel free to join.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And y'all brought up a really good point, because we actually started planning this podcast and creating it at the end of 2020. So in my head, I kind of imagined that, we started this in 2020, but
no, but it kicked off in 2021.
Right. So this is actually,
it became public.
Right. Yeah. This is our, the end of our first year as a podcast. So that's another thing we'll have to celebrate today. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. But yeah, that's awesome. That's really awesome. And for Japan, I mean, it's been a huge year. I mean, to say the least.
It has.
Yeah.
I will say, as much as, no one can travel anywhere, Japan has had its ups and downs this year.
Just like you, Doug, I think it's fair to say that it's been a little bit of a roller coaster.
They broke their foot?
Pretty much, and some months it seemed like it. But a roller coaster. I mean, a year that was full of you would say, changes. I mean, this year saw what? Two different prime ministers, a royal family member leaving, an Olympics. Yeah, come on. I mean, those three along, that's some major stuff going down, and then COVID, obviously. So, lot of stuff. Big year, big 2021 for Japan, and we are going to dive right into discussing some of those events right now. So the first thing, and we'll try to stay in chronological order throughout the year, but very loosely, no guarantees. We might jump a little bit around in time. But the first thing we have on our list of major news events of 2021 is the boogeyman, COVID. So COVID was, kind of had a very interesting year in Japan. What are y'all thoughts on it?
Just like the year itself, I think COVID in Japan had its ups and downs. I think they went to 4 waves of COVID, which is crazy, but a lot of other countries are in the same boat now. But right now it's pretty low numbers from what I've seen on the news.
Yeah, I've been seeing that too.
And as much as a lot of people were giving Japan a hard time about rolling out the vaccines, once they got their act together, it's been great from what I've heard. And, when it comes to precautions for COVID, I think Japan took it as seriously as it could, meaning they made businesses close early so people weren't out as late hanging out, because that's a big cultural thing is, hey, let's go out at night and drink and party and act a fool. So I think annihilating that for now helped a lot. But yeah, I think they did an okay job. They're at level 3 right now, which is more than a lot of European countries can say, because they're at level 4. So I think they did pretty well for the year, handling COVID, and hopefully we'll see those borders open permanently for tourists.
Yeah, and one, just to supplement something you said, I checked a few minutes before we started recording, and the official number is that something around 80% of Japanese adults have had both doses of a vaccine.
That's great.
Which is
great.
Incredibly
better than
high.
the US.
Yeah.
So props to them.
Right. So
better than the US is
no,
not
it's
setting
not.
a high bar. Yeah, no, and they really I think there was a lot of concern with the rollout when that vaccine rollout started. I remember reading a lot of not great press about just logistical issues that they were having, and and a lot of roadblocks and speed bumps and all those other, figures of speech. But then once, like you said, once it got the ball rolling, it was really, it took off, and I was shocked at how shocked and not shocked about how quickly people were able to do that, and kind of not fall in line, but like kind of just do what's, in my opinion, best for, the community and for everyone as a whole. So I thought that was really awesome to see there, and again, kind of touching on what you had mentioned, Jen, about the closing things down and places. I think there was a few things with that, and we're going to touch on the Olympics later. But I mean, I think also in addition to COVID, they had, they're trying to use states of emergency to kind of control COVID and the outbreaks and whatnot, and going kind of harsh on some of those lockdowns, like you said, like shutting down areas of Shibuya or Tokyo, like Shibuya and Shinjuku. Like you would have lights off at 8 p.m. Like all those stations that are typically well lit, kind of like a nightscape that you see pictures of all these different, signs and things like that. Everything just shut down, and it was kind of wild. You never see that. And like Shibuya Crossing was barren, like things like that you would never see. So it was really, and again, we're all experiencing this from afar, so I can't really speak on behalf of the people who live there and went through all of this, but
pretty much it's gonna affect you if you live that kind of lifestyle. So like, obviously, if someone's taking that part of your lifestyle away, of course it's gonna upset you, of course it's gonna put a damper on your plans. But if you don't live that lifestyle, I mean, you're kind of okay.
And again, it's us talking about it from like kind of afar, so we can't really attest or give our perspective from like how it's impacted us personally. So, but I again, from what we've seen, there was a lot of kind of initial backlash with some of the vaccine rollout, but in the end, I mean, it's been a better rollout than we've seen here in the US in terms of people who actually are taking the vaccines. So, and not nearly as much pushback. So it's all in all good. I believe I saw something recently about them working towards getting a booster rollout started soon.
I saw something about that too.
Especially with Omicron's, somewhat effective with if you have boosters and preventing and not as many boosters.
I mean, I don't advertise this, but if someone were to ask me, where would you rather live right now during COVID, US or Japan? I think I would go for Japan. I would feel so much safer in Japan than here in the US.
I would agree to some extent, that I feel like the mentality living over there is much more for the community as opposed to for the individual. And it's just it's a cultural difference, I think, honestly, in mindset.
Well, that's why the you said you were shocked by kind of when it did roll out, how fast people, actually responded and getting the vaccine. That's something that shocked me, but also didn't shock me as well because of that cultural difference. We already know that is kind of one of the big differences between American culture and Japanese culture, which put your I guess you stay in Japan long enough and you put stuff in the wrong recycling bin, you'll figure it out, when your neighbor is sorting out your trash for you. So
been there, done that.
Horrible. So yeah, exactly. So that's definitely something that I remember in the beginning of the year, particularly being like trying to figure out what was taking so long with the vaccine rollout. And thinking, I don't know when they're going to get it, and we were, by that point, we already had rolled it out and people were getting vaccinated. So that was a major, point of the year. I remember in the early parts it seemed like that was all that was in the news about Japan was the vaccine rollout being slower.
And I do remember, and not to keep talking about COVID because obviously we have a lot of other topics, but I do remember seeing something too for the foreigner community in the Tokyo area. There was someone on Twitter. Oh man, I wish I'll look it up and I'll add it in here later on. Once I'll be like, hey, by the way, But she developed a program to help foreigners find like clinics with availability.
Yeah, it was like a computer algorithm she wrote or something like that. Yeah, I remember seeing that.
Yeah, she set up and helped people kind of find, because that was one of the speed bumps, was getting the communication and availability of vaccines out to the foreign community in Tokyo and the surrounding areas, not just Tokyo. But this person had actually developed a website where they can go and find clinics that were administering vaccines, and really helped bridge a gap or help disseminate information that was really much needed at the time. So again, I'll do a little research while we're talking about other topics and find that to plug her, because it is something I believe that does need to be called out. It was a huge community service that she did and wasn't compensated for. It was something she just did out of, interest of learning coding and things like that. It was great.
Yeah, that's really phenomenal. And at that point, now we've had our big boogeyman discussion.
More lighthearted stuff on the menu.
yeah. So we'll move on to the rest of the year, and obviously with the rest of these news stories and topics, COVID might rear its ugly head just because it affects everyone, but it won't be the focus of the rest of the episode. So you can breathe and know that we're not going to really talk about COVID anymore.
Well, we'll see.
Mostly.
It always seeps in somehow, right?
Yeah,
it's like water at this point.
So
slips through the cracks.
What's next? What's another thing that happened this year that's on y'all's list?
Well, a big thing that happened in the sports side of things.
And you want to talk about sports?
Only because this is the only sports news I know. Literally the only one. I could care less about all the other ones because I had no idea what was going on. Well, because everyone was making it such a big deal over here in the States, which was so surprising. And that was Hideki Matsuyama. He became the first man from Japan to win a major golf title, which for those of you who don't know, the Masters happened earlier this year. And he won, and it was a big deal. Like, I don't remember if it was like ESPN or another network, but someone made like a skit where he was teaching other pro golfers, like Japanese. And it was like this funny little skit. And even Tiger Woods was in it. It was kind of funny.
Oh, wow. I have to look that up. Yeah.
Yeah. It was so funny and cute. But, I mean, they made it a big deal that he won the Masters. Like, it was a huge deal.
Nigel and I tried to recruit. We were like doing our research.
Oh, I remember that.
We tried to slide into his DMs. Yeah.
We're like, how do we got to find his translator. We got to find his interpreter. We got to do this. So yeah, it didn't work out. It didn't pan out. Sorry, guys. Let's listen to other. We shoot high on this podcast. Don't always make our shots. We're not Steph Curry.
But hey, you miss every shot you don't take. So
that's for damn sure.
This is true.
Right. So, one of the really cool things about that story was not only was he the first Japanese-born golfer to win the Masters, but he was also the first Asian man in general to win the Masters, which is, that's just like massive for the whole region as a whole. So that was I remember when that happened. Yeah, it seemed like it was everywhere in the news. I got, the CNN, the BBC, New York Times, like all the breaking news, things were just coming across everywhere. So
and it really gave Japan a spotlight from people from a different aspect. So, like, obviously people who are interested in Japan love all things Japan and want to know everything. But these are people that maybe had no idea, about Japan. I still have family members that think Japan is just like China. So, I mean, there's probably those people mixed in too. So it was really good to have something like this shine some positive light on Japan. And I always welcome that, even if it is related to sports.
Yeah, and even in a year when the Olympics are taking place, it just kind of, and we can touch on Shohei Ohtani too while we're right here talking about sports, that just kind of lump everything together. Sport-wise, he emerged this year as like one of the top baseball athletes in the world, not just in MLB, but like in the world. And did he win MVP? I think he did. Or was it somebody else?
He did win MVP. So what's crazy was he won the MVP, MLB's MVP award, and he received all 30 of the like picks for MVP.
Votes?
Yeah,
that's right. Unanimous, right?
Yeah, it was unanimous. And then he also won the MVP, the player's choice. So the actual MLB players voted him as their like top player of the year. And I mean, I like the stats that he had this year were just like unreal. I'm not even the biggest baseball fan, but when
Same.
you watch, highlights, when you're seeing something special, right? So
yeah,
he actually came really close to actually breaking a Babe Ruth record, which has been in place for 103 years, and he was like one game away from doing it. So it was with the number of home runs and like winning games he had pitching. He needed 10 games, 10 winning games pitching, and he had 9. So it was the record was to have both double digit, I think it was home runs and also winning games pitching. So he was one short, but
dang.
Yeah, no, I mean, had an amazing year. That I think also with him, he was the first Japanese player to win the MVP award since. Do we know who?
Ichiro?
Since Ichiro, yeah, since God, So,
well, I mean, that was that Ichiro is like a household name in Japan. Like,
right.
It's and Shohei Ohtani is becoming that.
I think
he's not supplanting him, but
I think he's going to be the next. In there, he's created a dual religious thing, going on. There'll be a Trinity someday, but we now have the second part, But undoubtedly, I mean, he's going to go down in history as one of the greatest ever. It'd be interesting to see how it continues through next season.
Yeah, and it's just such a really cool thing again in the year when the Olympics are taking place. This juxtaposition of Japanese athletes succeeding at a high level on a global stage outside of Japan, but then also Japan having the success it did in the Olympics as well, which is just a really cool dichotomy there.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that was huge. Jenn, what do you have? What's another story that popped up on your radar in 2020?
Well, for our listeners who usually listen and know each of us pretty well now that you've been, listening to us for a year exactly, I love me some pop culture. And so one of the big news stories is the fact that Universal Studios Japan opened the Super Nintendo World section of USJ. Now, obviously, we're supposed to be getting a Super Nintendo World as well over here at our Universal Studio parks. But Japan obviously was the first, and what an opening that was. Wow. We had, for those of you who don't remember, in a past episode, we had TDR Explorer come on our podcast, and we interviewed him. And, one of the things that we talked about was Universal Studios Japan and the fact that he loved Super Nintendo World and he was able to experience it a lot of the time. And, just seeing his videos and all the news coverage of this opening was amazing. The world is very immersive and the foods look fantastic. The merchandise, there's something for everyone. It really, really, really looked fantastic, and I really hope our parks can do it justice as well. If not, I can always just go to the one in Japan, but I really hope I really hope that ours does it justice, because man, it looks very immersive. Like I just can't even explain it. I don't think, like, our Harry Potter world is pretty immersive, and like our Star Wars section of like Disney is very immersive, but this looked like, oh my god, you just fell into the video game.
Wow.
And they're not even done. They're going to be expanding it to Donkey Kong as well, so
oh man,
it's going to be good.
So is this top of your list for the next time you visit Japan?
Yeah, kind of, yeah. I need to go visit Universal Studios Japan again, because it's been quite a while.
It's up there for me too. I think we're going to be going in whenever we do go, I think our family trip, while in Japan, will be to go to Osaka.
Yep.
And check this out. Sorry, no, in the middle of that, and this is just, we can leave this in the podcast or take it out. It's hilarious. So my wife for Christmas, and this is 2021 news, by the way, got a Tamagotchi from Santa Claus.
Oh, wow.
And my son was knocking on my door to let me know that it died.
In good Tamagotchi fashion.
How many days? It's been 4 days.
Ouch.
I'm like, well, you ignored it, all the beeps for like a day, so I'm not surprised. Anyway.
Was he in tears? Or
no, he was just like, oh my God, he died.
Yeah, that's right. Tamagotchi did come back
in 2021. It was like a little angel on his screen. So a major news event. Our Tamagotchi lasted 4 days.
Yikes. Well, that's funny, Jen. You just said Tamagotchi came back in 2021.
Yeah, I remember that now. It became like a big thing again. Like it came out, like they revamped it. So like, it's not, it's still the same old game, but they revamped it into like a newer version of Tamagotchi, because I had the old versions when I was young.
Yeah, no, I remember those. I was gonna say, did you get it on eBay or something? But that's cool. Okay, so you got the newer revamped version for Christmas.
Yeah.
Or Manami did. Okay, so cool. Wow. So Tamagotchi.
All right, to derail the conversation
Universal
with some really
No. Universal Studios and Tamagotchi. Nice. That's awesome. So I'll have to throw that on my list as well. That sounds pretty awesome. And
Tamagotchi?
both actually, yeah. See how long mine can last. We should do a challenge. But
going back to to Universal Studios, because you've never been, right?
No, I've never been. Wait, so have both of y'all been?
No, I haven't been to the Universal.
I'm the only one
Japan.
who has.
I've been the one in the US, but
same. Been to the US one, but no, never the Universal Studios Japan. So that looks pretty awesome. I've seen the videos and pictures of it, and I'm sold already. So
yep.
And Chris did a good job.
It's only gonna get better.
Do you know when that the Donkey Kong party's open?
Oh, I have no idea. Maybe 2024, but I that's just a guess. Honestly, I have no clue. Maybe y'all should follow Chris on TDR Explorer to find out, because he knows a bunch of that stuff.
There you go. I think that was secretly just a pitch for us to mention Chris and for listeners to go and follow him again. So.
Hey, I love Chris. He was a great guest. I watch him on the daily myself personally, so gotta.
He dropped a lot of knowledge about on that episode too. Not that we're like shamelessly plugging our old episodes by any means, but he dropped a lot of information on that episode regarding not just Tokyo Disney, but USJ. So
yeah, totally.
Shamelessly plugged. Yes, go listen to that episode if you haven't already.
But now to bring us down again, not to try and set the mood in a different direction, but once again, pop culture. In the big anime and manga community, we lost someone very, very dear in the community, and that is the creator of Berserk. It's a very famous and popular manga series and anime. Kentaro Miura, he passed away this year in about, I think it was March. And he's the writer and illustrator for Berserk. So like no one can replicate. His art is so good. Like no one's going to be able to replicate it as perfectly as himself. So in the anime manga community, we lost a good soul right there, and it's very sad.
Yeah, I remember when that happened, and I personally have not read Berserk, but I know.
Have you watched it?
Haven't watched it either. No.
Do something. Watch it. Read it. Do something. It's good.
Yeah, I haven't read or seen either. I know some friends that are like diehard.
Berserk.
Same.
There's a reason for it, I promise.
Oh yeah,
and it's hard to avoid. It's one of those that has a huge following, and it's one of those that like even if you don't watch it, you know of it. You've seen it around.
Oh, definitely.
So,
definitely.
Yeah, no, but I remember when that happened.
Yeah, I was gonna say like when I was on like Man in the Twitter back in when was it? I don't even remember if it was April or
like
May.
I said, I think he died in March.
Okay. I remember you could see the impact on just like on Twitter, the people that we follow. You could see the substantial impact that he had on people's lives in terms of whether it was other artists or other creators, just fans of his work. You know, it just, there was an outpour of, you know, support for the community after his passing. So yeah, it was definitely a big loss for that group.
Definitely. So sorry to bring y'all down with that news, but it was kind of a big deal.
No,
kind
it's
of
okay.
a big deal.
No. Regardless of, you know, if it's sad, you know, we want to touch on things that were, you know, sad, happy, neutral. And one of those neutral things that, you know, we'll discuss next is the Tokyo 2021 Olympics. I say neutral because for some people that was bad, for some people that was great. For some people it was
mixed
just like,
feelings.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So,
some people can compartmentalize, you know, enjoying sports and everything, the other cloud that surrounded the Olympics, from a controversial standpoint in terms of whether or not it should have been canceled or not.
Exactly.
You know, there's a lot of takes out there.
We're gonna take the middle ground right here. But yeah,
we're gonna take the middle ground.
yeah. For you know, obviously everyone has their own personal opinion about it. We all do as well. But for the purpose of this episode, we're just going to discuss that it happened.
Yeah.
You know? So
I mean, I'm not sure about y'all, but I actually did follow it very hard. I watched a bunch of the competitions and the sports. It was fun. I'll admit, like, the competition was fun. It was pretty fierce, honestly. And the new sports that they added, I'm glad that they added. I'm not sure if they're going to stay, because depending on where they are, they might not have access to some things to do, like surfing. But man, like, it was fun to watch, really fun. And especially like the outdoors ones where you get to see Japan. So like the races and the marathons, those were super fun because I'm like, wow, they're running in like picturesque Japan, and like I hope they're appreciating this because you know, this is like, I would be dying for these views right now.
Yeah, I need to go back and look at some of those outdoor events because those are ones that I missed. So that's just in my head. That sounds really awesome to go back and look at. Have y'all ever seen the 1964 Olympics? The like the official film that they made for?
Oh no, I thought you were asking if I saw it. I'm like, dude, I wasn't born yet, man. I don't look old, but geez.
But no, they so a couple years ago they did a Criterion Collection was the company who I believe did it, but they did a compilation of all of the Olympic games, the films, because for each Olympic Games there's a person that is chosen to direct kind of an overall film that captures the games, the opening ceremony, and kind of like the whole spirit of the tournament. And they release it into like a one movie. It might be like 4 hours long or something like that, you know. But Japan has one from the prior time it hosted the Olympics in 1964, which was the only time it hosted the Summer Olympic Games. It's hosted the Winter Olympic Games before.
Yeah, because winter was like in 1998 in Nagoya. Not Nagoya, Nagano.
Right. Yeah. So the Summer Games for 64 is awesome. I've seen the film. It's like an amazing, like you said, it highlights a lot of the picturesque sides of Japan, but in the 60s. So it's really cool to see. So I would be really interested in seeing today how it's been like updated and, you know, the new aspect. But very interesting games. I feel like I don't really know personally, like around here, many people who told me they were tuning in to watch it, which I think is very interesting. Compared to previous games. And I think that's partially because one, we're not even going to give it the decency of saying its name again, but we're going to call it, I don't know what, Hot Cocoa. How about that?
Hot
You
Cocoa?
kind of get an idea.
Dun, dun, dun.
Because it's Hot Cocoa. It's cocoa. You know what we're talking about, generally hot, because, you know, you don't want to touch it. You know, it's too hot.
Fair enough.
Hot Cocoa. There we go. Partially because of that, I guess, and partially because I feel like every time I tried to watch it, it was on Peacock, and I don't have a Peacock subscription. So.
Yeah, they did. I felt like I have Cox Cable, and I feel like it was on so many channels, and then it was cool because I did have Peacock that came with my cable subscription. So if I would switch over to an obscure sport that I was like, oh, let me watch 7-on-7 rugby or whatever, which was really fun to watch, by the way. But like it wasn't always on TV. But then it would also come on at really obscure times. It'd be on like 2 a.m.
Because it's Japan time.
Well, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like that's the one big difference is that having those Olympics like kind of across around the world, where it's a substantial time difference. You have a lot of the main events taking place overnight, and I feel like that was also, if it was something when, like, for example, when World Cup was in, or not World Cup, I'm sorry, Olympics, where the last Olympics were in Brazil, right? Yeah, so like it was same time zone as pretty much as us.
Yeah.
And I feel like everyone watched it because they were awake.
I feel like I watched so much more of that Olympic Games. And I wanted to watch so much more of this one, but I think there's the combination of the time difference, Peacock, and then also a little bit of COVID.
Well, I think they were just trying to push that platform. Like this is a chance for NBC to really push like the platform that Peacock is to its audience and force people to download it and force people to use it.
I mean, I just watch it on NBC.
I feel like I could only catch the replays, on NBC.
Replays, and then some games that you could do at night, our night would be their morning.
Right.
So I caught some live ones. But I mean, you could always watch recaps of things because that's how I found out about a lot of stuff. Like apparently the Japanese men's volleyball team had like haiku songs playing in the background, and which is a nice touch for anime fans. And like even like the opening ceremony, they had like all these video game songs come on as like they would walk into the stadium.
That reminded me of the half court shooting robot that they introduced too. They had the robot in that was drilling like Steph Curry-esque like half court shots in the basketball tournament. Yeah, it was great. And 3-on-3 in basketball is really cool too, by the way. I thought that was really fun to watch.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. Well, also one thing we have to highlight is, the Olympics, whether or not you watched it, whether or not you think it shouldn't have happened.
Whether or not you like the IOC.
It was...
All right, I'll stop there.
Yeah.
No spicy takes about, no hot cocoa, no spicy takes.
Oh my gosh, yeah. They're all the different, head of the Olympics that got replaced for various different reasons.
All the controversies,
and controversy. Yeah, it was interesting. But for Japan itself, the Japanese team, it was a great Olympics. They got
it was fantastic.
Yeah, 58 medals was their total, which was the most amount of medals that Japan has ever won. And they also got 27 gold medals, which was the highest tally that they've ever gotten. So
where did they finish overall? Was it third or fourth?
Third.
I think third.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was a really successful Olympics for Japan, Team Japan as a whole. So that's also, hats off, props to them for that. It's really great. A lot of people, I guess, really took that chance. They're like, I'm on my home turf, I'm gonna show up and give it everything, which is really, really cool to see. I'm a big fan of sports. I know, Jen, you aren't. Doug, I think you are.
Yeah.
So it's always really great to see for me and for Doug, I imagine you too, to see athletes compete at such a high level and give it their everything.
Yeah.
You love to see the passion, so.
Well, all the training is built up to these moments. So it's something that, whether or not you agreed with whether the Olympics should have happened or not, for these athletes, it's like their dream and their goal. And, for them, I'm happy that they were able to, chase that and do, get to the point where they've trained all their life for these moments and they actually got to experience them. So,
yeah, because for them, it was like their ride or die kind of moment.
Yeah. Okay, before we move on from this topic, opening ceremony. Did y'all see it?
I did.
What'd you think?
I wish, And I understand everything of why it happened the way it did, but I wish it would have displayed more Japanese culture than like these little itty bits that they decided to do. And if you searched for a bunch of news, you know that this wasn't their original opening ceremony. They had another plan before this one, and I just, it could have been better. That's what I'm gonna say.
Less talks from IOC chair people, the better. Those
no, not even that. Literally, it wasn't that. That was not my problem.
I know, but me personally, I was like, I can only imagine.
We know you have gripes, dude.
No, I'm just saying those long-winded speeches, no one gives a crap about.
Well, I didn't give a crap about interpretive dance either, but I had to watch it.
That's like my gosh.
Okay. But could you guess who was going to light the torch? Did you see that one coming?
I kind of saw it, yeah.
No, I
saw it coming.
Did not.
Okay.
I could see it coming. I was.
You were shocked.
Not pleasantly surprised, but I was
a little shocked. Yeah.
It was good to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Am I the only one that wasn't shocked?
Well, I mean, maybe so. I don't know. I mean, like Doug said, I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, she was a big part of like news in Japan. Like, I know she was big news over here, but like she was pretty big news over in Japan. So I wasn't surprised, honestly, that she would be chosen to light the torch and stuff.
And of course, if you missed it, we were talking about Naomi Osaka. She was the one chosen to actually light the torch and officially open the game. So that was a very interesting moment. And I saw Rui Hachimura there. He was carrying the flag.
Yeah.
And I guess behind the scenes note, we also tried to get him on the podcast too.
We totally did, and we got in touch with people from the Wizards, and they were like, "Man, it's in the middle of the season right now." Or what was it?
We're like, "Yo, this is a chance of a lifetime for him now," And they were like,
"We I got some connections now. I knew some people we could reach out to, and maybe not for Rui,
again.
But
you
we have
miss every
other
shot
folks.
you don't take.
Yeah,
indeed.
And
indeed.
you know me, I'm a persistent
go-getter. Indeed.
And one of the things you briefly mentioned, Naomi Osaka, making the headlines for lighting the torch at the Olympics, but she also made the headlines this year for other reasons. One particular being like the French Open and withdrawing for mental health reasons, which I think is, it really shines a light on the importance that these athletes are actually people, and it's something that maybe isn't a Japan-centric headline for 2021, but I think it's something that, such a someone that was chosen to light the torch for the Japanese team for the Olympics, obviously that's a face of the country in the sporting world. And I think it was a great message for her to send to people that, hey, look, we may be athletes, but we're not, we're people, and we have our own mental health to worry about. And I think it's an important message that needs to be shared around the world, because there's a lot of, especially on Twitter and social media, a lot of jerks out there. So I thought it was a great thing.
Yeah, we have to go back and look at it, but I'm like, if she wasn't the first very high profile person to do it, she was certainly one of the first and became the face of kind of athletes speaking out and taking action on mental health.
And it's been happening in a lot of sports lately, more so, especially since
and we saw at the Olympics when Simone Biles actually decided to sit out. A lot of those decisions followed some of the Naomi Osaka things that she was doing. Because the French Open thing started with her not doing the interviews after the match. So that was a huge moment for sports as well. And again, Naomi Osaka was, again, if not the first, she was definitely at the forefront of leading that and garnered a lot of attention. So that was really interesting and a huge story of the year. And while we're on sports, I know, Jen, you're reeling over there. We're talking about sports too much.
I know she's
Yeah.
tuning us out.
Oh no, I'm good. I'm here. I'm here.
Well, here's one.
I'm hanging on.
Last sports topic.
Yeah, sports, but also bridges into culture as well, because
Right.
it's like it's an area that's a little bit bigger, and that is sumo. It is officially Japan's national sport, but it also is a cultural thing as well.
I would say icon. Like it's a cultural event for people to attend.
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
people make trips out of it.
There's elements of Shintoism that are infused in it. So it's a little bit. It's more than a sport, but it's also a sport too. So, what happened in sumo this year?
So a couple things. Well, a few things happened. There were entering into 2021 two yokozuna. And ending the year, there's only one. And that one yokozuna is a new yokozuna. So, in March, one of the yokozunas, Kakuryu, retired. And then following that, in September, after winning the, I want to say it was Nagoya Basho in July-ish? Yeah, July, I think. Hakuho, who is probably one of the, if not the best sumo wrestlers of not just modern day, but in all time, one of the highest echelon of wins and one of the most successful yokozunas ever, retired after a long career. I think he'd been in yokozuna for like 10 years. He was yokozuna when I was on Jet back in like 2008, 2007.
Wow.
So he's been around longer than 10 years, excuse me. But he was replaced by a new someone who elevated and ascended to the ranks, Teruno Fuji, who is now the only yokozuna in sumo. And interesting fact, both Fuji and Hakuho were undefeated heading into the final match of that Nagoya Basho in July, in which Hakuho won. So that was kind of his swan song, his send-off party almost. I don't think he intended to retire right away after that, but I think he had an injury where he said, "You know what? It's time to take the crown off,
go out on
top." Yeah. So
yeah,
it was a big year for sumo in general. Again, we not to shameless plug our podcast episode.
Yeah, I was gonna do it.
Take it away, man.
Yeah,
it's all you.
Well, no, we both won that episode, so we'll tag team it. But we actually did a phenomenal sumo episode back in season 1, which is still this year, where we actually sat down with the director of USA Sumo, Andrew Freund, and we talked all things sumo in the US, his history, just the sport in general, how he started USA Sumo, what they do today. And it's really incredible, from hosting the largest sumo tournament in the country to doing sumo events for Elon Musk's birthday party. I mean, like, it was pretty great discussion. So definitely go check out that episode. I think this year I've watched more sumo than I have ever watched before in any previous year. And really enjoyed it more because of that podcast episode we did. So I would highly recommend going to check that out, and highly recommend watching more sumo this year or for next year. Great time to get into sumo, and there's some great YouTube channels out there as well that are kind of very small, but really post avidly about sumo that you can follow.
Yeah.
Anything to add to that, Doug?
No, there's sumo year round. It's a year-round sport, so there's like a tournament every 2 months. So you'll be able to find something on NHK World. They do recap episodes there too, if you have NHK World or access to it. I know that's Jen's favorite channel.
Yeah,
it's not. I mean, I don't watch it as a TV channel. It's free online. Just go to the website and you can watch live, or you can watch pre-recorded programs. I mean, it's whatever.
Yeah, so that's a good point. It's free to watch sumo.
It is free.
Can't beat that. So go for it.
There's other streaming options out there that I can't discuss. But there's ways to watch it if you want to watch it. There's a way. But you go out there and check it. You pirates. All right. We're gonna move. We're gonna shift it back over to pop culture, and I'm tossing it to Jen while I lose my crap over here.
Yay! I'm alive again. Okay. So
what else has happened?
More sad news. More sad news from the. Well, I don't know. It's sort of sad news, but not really sad news because we just found something out a month ago.
But
okay. Yeah, pretty much. So the famous Sega building in Ikebukuro, the arcade, it closed. It closed a few months ago. It was very sad. They had like their last premiere day of being open, and everyone went and enjoyed themselves. And I mean, they stayed open pretty late, if I remember right. And they said, they sent their customers off, and it was a big, kind of like showy. It was very showy, but yeah, they it's closed. Permanently closed that location, but then they announce, like, in a gap of time, they announced that they're going to reopen elsewhere.
Oh, okay.
The Sega arcade, so it's really not gone. The same people
that's good
who ran this one is going to open a new one elsewhere. I think it's still going to be in Ikebukuro, but just not in the same location. I'm unsure of that. Don't quote me on that. I don't really know the specifics of the reopening.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're going to open a new arcade, Sega arcade. It's going to be. I'm excited for that.
Well, that's good. You had been to that one, right? The old one.
Not the Ikebukuro one.
Oh,
no,
okay.
I went to the Sega arcade that was in Kyoto.
Okay, yeah, I've been to that one too. But
yeah, I don't stay in Tokyo, so I don't do too much in Tokyo.
Yeah, I don't even know. I think I've been there probably once or twice. I just don't remember. I've been to a few arcades in different places, but not.
Oh, I love arcades.
I'm not a big arcade guy. It's a lot of money.
I don't know, Doug.
For short-term joy, I'm not really good at arcade video games, so for me, it's just crapping away money.
You look like you're a mean Dance Dance Revolution player.
He's not denying it.
No.
He's thinking.
No.
He's thinking.
Where's the Bugs Bunny? No.
Yeah. Jen looks like she tears up those UFO machines too.
Bruh, well. You have no idea. I see a figure. I see a figure or a plushie. I'm like, I gotta have it.
They're rigged. I'm telling you.
You could probably end up buying it for cheaper than what you end up putting in there money wise for these UFO. Can't you pay? Can't you be like, hey, I want to buy that for $5 or 500 yen or something like that, and or 1,000 yen or something? You could talk to the people over there and they can move it for you. They move it for you though. If you ask them to.
No, you don't. Well, you can move it, but you don't pay them. Hey, I'm going to give you $5 for this thing. No, you don't pay for it.
Maybe there's some shady under the table deals.
No. Doug. Oh my God, dude! I need to teach you the ways of the arcade. So what you can do is, if you're having a super difficult time, and they see that you've been having a super difficult time, either they'll come and volunteer to do it for you, or you just say "tasukete" and you're like, help me, and they'll move it to an easier spot, so that way they kind of give it to you, but you still got to put in the work.
Okay, so I could just be like, I put in 1,000 yen and I only did nothing, and be like, it's so hard to get. And then
we'll have to one day we'll do a whole deep dive into arcades. I know, Jen, you've been waiting to do that topic, so.
Bruh, I've been waiting. I have a script ready and everything.
I think we need to visit more. Yeah, I know. Doug and I need to get some more experience with some arcades, and then we'll be ready. But
all I got is my cheapo department store Purikura area.
There you go.
Arcades, the ones with the taiko drums and 8,000 UFO catchers and Purikura machines.
Hey, taiko drums are good. I love that game.
I love
That's
seeing
a fun
the people
game.
go all out with they put their gloves on, with that game.
Oh
yeah.
Dude, you have no idea.
These guys are pros.
You have no idea.
So that's interesting. I'll definitely have to put that on my list to visit in their new location, wherever and whenever that opens. So
yes.
In other news,
Japan
also, which we mentioned earlier, got a new prime minister this year. We started the year with Prime Minister Suga and ended the year with Prime Minister Kishida. Correct?
That is correct. And not to be confused with Sugar from Baby Bash either. It's Suga.
Oh my God.
I just wanted to throw that in there. No, he took over for Abe back in 2020.
Yeah.
And then he didn't last long.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think he was supposed to last long. I think they initially said this is just for a year to have someone on that position.
Yeah, and I don't think his approval ratings were very high either.
Yeah. And, unfortunately for him, we don't want to dive too much into politics. That's not the purpose of this podcast. But I think, unfortunately for him, that a lot of his tenure came during COVID and the vaccine rollout, the slow vaccine rollout. So
yeah, no one had good rep during COVID. That's like an impossible task.
For real.
Quarter 1 and quarter 2 wasn't friendly for a lot of people in Japanese politics. I'm still waiting for my Abe no mask.
Oh my gosh.
I just want one to put it on display in my office.
Oh my
gosh. Like a souvenir.
I mean, apparently they have tons in
I
storage.
know, right? That's what I'm saying.
I heard that as well.
I gotta ask my sister-in-law to send me one.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So new prime minister. I know when Abe, when President Trump was elected, Abe gave him a set of golf clubs. It's like Japanese-made golf clubs. We'll have to see. We'll have to do the research to see what gifts were exchanged between Prime Minister Kishida and President Biden, because usually that's a custom that happens when people come in. They send these very interesting gifts. So, we'll have to look it up. I'll look it up in between our news segments here, and if I find it, I'll throw it out there. But
I wish him all the best in this coming year as the new prime minister, and hopefully he can help us re-enter Japan soon.
Yeah, I know that'll be something you're keeping your eye very closely on.
I know. God.
Speaking of borders reopening, that was kind of like one of our next topics.
Yeah.
So
good. Let's talk about it.
Since you brought it up,
let's do it.
Borders still closed. They opened briefly for a
3 weeks
short window.
There was a glimmer of hope. Like a smidge of a glimmer. I was so excited. I was like, ooh, even though it wasn't for tourists, it didn't reopen for tourists. The borders only opened for visa holders, like students or business people. Mm-hmm. But then I think it only stayed open for 3 or 4 weeks, and then it immediately re-shut.
Yeah, with Omicron, it just everything kind of
they got
collapsed
spooked
on itself again.
Yeah, it got spooked.
But it was open long enough for at least one that I know of. Yes, at least one jet group to leave, which was great for them. Finally, had been waiting for over a year to leave. So that was good news for them.
You want to hear more about that story? Go listen to our jet episode.
Indeed.
Sorry, I just threw that out there.
Yeah.
Earlier this season.
But I did hear that once they closed the borders for those visa holders, if the visa holders had a flight in December already scheduled, that the Japanese government would acknowledge it and let them in. I did hear that. I'm not sure if that's true or if anyone can prove that right, but that's what I heard on the news.
Yeah, I don't.
And then for any new visa holders, they would cut those out.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I've heard, just again being on Twitter, seeing a lot of conversation about students and study abroad students or MEX scholars.
Students are upset.
Oh yeah, they're fuming, and rightfully so. I mean, a lot of them have put their life on hold for years, trying to go over and study abroad, and then finally had a window open. And even when it was open, it was kind of a phased re-entry opening, and then you had to do all this other, quarantining and paying for those quarantine hotels. It was not an easy process to, even if you were approved to re-enter the country. Nothing was, cheap for sure. And even I heard a story from, I want to say Manami read it somewhere on Facebook about someone who re-entered the country, and right after Omicron started, this is back at the beginning of December, they had to stay in hotels near Tokyo or Narita Airport.
Correct.
And if there weren't any available in Narita, they would bus people to other hotels in the area, but they were at full capacity in Tokyo. So instead of having those people stay there, they put them on a plane, flew them to Sendai, and would put them in hotels in Sendai. And then after they spent their 14 days in quarantine, flew them back to Narita to go through customs and whatever they had to do, get reprocessed. And then they were allowed to disperse. However, even if you were, let's say someone lived in Sendai or lived up in Tohoku, where they were much closer to home being in Sendai than they were in Tokyo, you didn't have the choice of just going home from Sendai. If you lived in Japan and lived in that area, you had to go back to Tokyo and then send yourself back home.
I don't know, man. This sounds like a Reddit creepypasta to me, man. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be, but I wouldn't be surprised at some of the stuff I've seen. Some, yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I didn't hear that. So
well, it was more of a personal. Someone actually had that experience happen to them, so
I'm gonna put this in the Slender Man category.
Slender Man. I don't know if it's that far off. It's definitely believable. I don't know if that exact story happened, but
the Slender Man story or this story?
I don't know. If you think Slender Man is more believable than this story, then you need to go live in Japan longer. Yes.
But the point being, our listeners, is that the borders were reopened temporarily for a few people, and now it's closed for everyone once again.
And everyone, even if you, I want to say, even if you live in Japan, you have to quarantine at a hotel near the airport.
Correct. You do.
For 14 days still, or did they make it 10? It's still 14, huh?
I think they made it 10.
Did it?
I think I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Anyway,
yeah,
difficult times for those quarantining folks because families are getting split up across hotel rooms too for 14 days.
Oh wow!
I saw that on NHK News that a family, the mom and the son, and then a dad and a son, had to go in 2 separate rooms, and they weren't allowed to see each other for 2 weeks. So it sucks. Yeah. They aren't allowed to go home like they were able to previously, but. Is what it is with the hot cocoa, right, Nigel?
It is what it is, but
that's how it is in the streets.
You know it. So, speaking of the streets, what a segue. So another huge story is Princess Mako. Princess Mako and Kei Komuro, which they finally got married. And if you're not aware, Princess Mako, I mentioned this we haven't released that episode yet.
No, it's coming up. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert. We have an episode coming soon, which is about the Japanese chrysanthemum throne, the royal family. The emperor, we dive into the emperor. The history, we dive into Princess Mako, deep history, like the origins to present day. Yeah, it was fantastic. But yeah, so definitely check out that episode. But Princess Mako, if you're not really familiar, she was a princess in the royal family of Japan, and back in 2017 she announced that she was going to marry a man named Kei Komuro, which was her classmate from college. And obviously, maybe if you just heard that it's her classmate, the big deal with that was that he was a air quotations commoner. So that caused a big stir in the family because she would actually have to leave the royal family if she got married to a commoner.
And on top of that, there was a lot of controversy with his family owing money. And
yes, so it was announced in 2017, but then it was delayed in 2018 because there were some financial controversies over Komuro's family. And so from 2017 to, I believe it was October of this year, it's taken that long, but they finally got married in October of this year. She left the royal family. The marriage ceremony was very muted, no big celebration. They actually ended up moving to New York City. So they actually saw an article yesterday. The paparazzi was photographing her walking down the street. Formerly Princess Mako out and about in New York, like all the headlines and stuff. So they got a lot of comparisons to Harry and Meghan, with the coverage that they had. It was pretty intense. Mako was actually diagnosed with PTSD, like clinically diagnosed with it. So yeah, it's been pretty crazy, but it finally happened this year, and yeah, they're hopefully they live happily ever after.
Yeah, I was about to say happily ever after, and hopefully they don't get harassed as much here as they would if they had stayed in Japan. I feel like they may escape some coverage. I mean, obviously paparazzi gonna paparazzi, right? They're gonna do what they gotta do. But yeah, that was a big story because I kind of, among other things with the royal family, just line of succession and all these types of things, that was part of the conversation. Was this family or was this marriage, and how that would impact on some things, and who would assume the rightful spot if and when the emperor does pass or step down. So
and I read one of the quotes from her why they didn't have a big wedding ceremony, and she apologized. She was like, "I'm sorry we upset so many people with our marriage," and I was like, "Oh, that's horrible." Just to to feel that pressure. She's like, "We apologize for upsetting so many people." I was like, "Oh,
should have just eloped."
Yeah. I mean, I guess kind of, sort of, they did, maybe.
Yeah,
but
I think they got the blessing.
Yeah.
It sucks for her. It really sucks, and for him too. I mean, he's getting dragged through the dirt, and he's a smart dude, and seems like a good guy. So I
don't think she was ever going to win this fight. That's the issue.
Yeah.
She wasn't going to win that fight. Just do what you want.
That's another huge news story. So with that, that's kind of, we'll cap it there for our, major news stories. Sure, there are other news stories out there, but, we have limited time and we can't cover every single thing that happened in Japan. But those are some big ones that jumped out to us, or in Japan/Japan related. So we're going to do a really quick segment here where we're just going to dive into some really funny, silly news stories that we found while searching for news things / Japan related news stuff. So
that's crazy. You used the word that you had to search for these things. Sadly, I just knew about these things.
Well, that's a good memory. So, what's something that you already knew about then?
Well, because my job consists of, getting students interested in going to Japan, specifically Kyoto, because that's where they stay. I always am looking for something about Kyoto, like whether it's wacky, strange, or interesting or cool. So in the beginning of the year, literally beginning of the year, it was so strange. News came out that Kyoto's Kamogawa River turned red, blood red, and I saw pictures of it too in the news article. It looks kind of freaky, and obviously not the whole river because it's a really big river. If you've ever been to Kyoto, it was more in the Fushimi Inari area, but it mysteriously happened. I tried to look for a follow-up article on the reasoning of why it happened, but I didn't find anything, so I don't know the cause of it. And it's really funny because Twitter, Japanese Twitter, was saying how, Kamogawa River used to be an execution site, so maybe people are making all these crazy stories up, but I don't know what it was, but it mysteriously turned red for a moment, and that was kind of crazy because no one knew how to explain it. So who knows?
Okay, so I remove my prior allegation of Doug's story being a creepypasta, and I now give it to you, Jen.
Yep.
That sounds like to me. But no, I remember when that story actually came out too, so I saw it as well from reputable news sources. But they could get caught with creepypastas too. So
now, one news story that was really famous that Doug probably affected your heart was the food shortages in Japan. You and your hungry stomach.
Yeah. It's lunchtime too when we're recording this. I'm really hungry, and I'm talking about Family Mart chicken and McDonald's French fries. The McDonald's fries one is actually it's the shortages right now. It's through the end of the year. They were cutting down on the L size and the M size, taking them off the menu temporarily due to a fried potato shortage.
Just another reason
for
you need to go
imports.
to Mossburger. Mm-hmm.
But I was listening to a couple other podcasts that were talking about this recently, and they're like, yeah, my fat ass would just go back in line and order 2 more French fries, like small size, like just go in and.
Well, I don't know if this is true, Doug. Is this true? Someone on Twitter said that like a set meal at the McDonald's, even though they're giving you a small fry, you're paying for the original price of the meal.
Really?
Yeah. So if the meal set came with a medium fry, you're getting a small fry, but you're still paying that medium price.
Yikes.
That's what I've heard. I don't know if it's true, but someone said that, and I was like, wow, that's something.
Oh, I thought you were going to say they were putting they're rationing and saying like, all right, you only 1 per customer.
That's what I was
Oh,
thinking.
I have no idea about that.
You'd have to put on like some sunglasses and
I have no clue.
Groucho Marx glasses and
pop your collar up to hide your face.
Yeah.
But this isn't the first time that Japan had a potato shortage. I don't know if y'all remember. I think it was like in 18 or 17. Japan had a potato shortage, and like it affected potato chips in Japan.
No,
that vaguely
don't remember
sounds
that
familiar.
one.
You don't remember that?
No, I don't remember that one.
I remember it was hilarious because you would go into Konbini and like the one thing that you're probably looking for, which is chips, wasn't there.
You find that hilarious?
That's depressing.
Kind of, yeah.
My stomach is
That's
sad.
a nightmare.
Unless it's those nasty ass chips, then that's okay.
Well, that's major
Anyway.
news for sure.
But the Family Mart chicken, and it's not just Family Mart chicken. I think it's like other places too. They have like where
KFC.
was it from Singapore,
KFC.
right? I think it's KFC. Was it? Were they importing their chicken from? Was it Thailand or Thailand or Singapore? There was another country in Asia that they were importing a lot of their chicken from, and they weren't able to, or just due to COVID or hot cocoa. Excuse me.
There you
Edit
go.
that out in post production. Hot cocoa. Due to hot cocoa, you can't get that chicky. So
here's that freestyle coming.
Yeah, it's tough times for people that are looking for fast food. But great times for New Year's resolutions if you're looking to cut that out.
My gosh.
You have an opportunity to do that and say, you know what? I'm going to make myself a better human with diets. Not really. Don't do that. Eat fried chicken and eat French fries. Enjoy yourself.
Or just go to Mossburger and get those delicious onion rings.
Yeah, I think McDonald's is the only one that's rationing fries. So
Oh, really? Okay.
I didn't see other places doing it.
Which speaks to Mossburger being better anyway.
I mean, I love Mossburger, so
they're all right.
Same.
They're okay. We're not. That's a different debate for a different episode.
You're just okay.
So when I was searching for fun topics or fun stories, I came across, or just stories in general to populate this episode. I came across this one that the headline it's not the official headline, but I just named it. That dog piss defeats traffic light. And so I was like, what the hell is this? I looked it up, and turns out somehow this made news. I don't know why, but over years, dogs have peed on this traffic light in Mie Prefecture, and it suddenly in February snapped at the base. And after investigation, they realized that it was just an overabundance of dog pee over there over time caused it to rot. And so they were supposedly, like, when the structures in the city are supposedly designed to last more than 50 years, but this one broke after 23 years. So they were doing investigations and all this stuff, and turns out that's what it was.
Y'all in these creepypastas.
I laughed at it, but honestly, I kind of think about that here in America too, because like I take my dog out for a walk, and sometimes like he will pee on a post. I'm just like, are you like, is this bad? Like, should I not let you do this, even though you really, really want to do it? Like, I do wonder sometimes.
So like the police that were investigating this, because I'm assuming this prefecture is very safe and no crime whatsoever. They're investigating dog piss on a pole. Nice. They're like, yes, you need to walk your dogs before, or you need to make them urinate before you take them out for a walk. But people are like, that's part of the purpose of taking dogs out for walks, is to get them to relieve themselves and do stuff. Now, yeah. So it was. I thought that was just a funny headline. Just going through looking for actual stories to talk about.
Times.
That's pretty wild. Again, and you mentioned that prefecture.
Yeah, Suzuka City and Mie Prefecture. One light post. And it makes NHK. That made NHK World News on the top headlines for 2021. So go figure.
I prefer that to hot cocoa. So
same.
Speaking of prefectures, there's a story about Starbucks and prefectures, right?
Yeah.
What happened there?
So Starbucks Japan, which is always better than any Starbucks around, Starbucks Japan, they did this fun thing where each prefecture had its own limited time frappuccino, and the frappuccino was flavored to represent that prefecture. So all 47 prefectures had its own frappuccino that you could order. Now, I don't know if any crazy person actually went to all 47 prefectures and tried this.
You know they did. Someone.
I don't know. I didn't hear about it.
A single person had to.
You would feel like you would hear about it, but I didn't hear about it. But obviously, if you live in one prefecture, you're surrounded by other prefectures. So you can maybe do about 4 or 5 tries, 4 or 5 prefectures that you could try. And then if you maybe had any trips, planned during that time, maybe you tried a few more elsewhere. But I mean, some of these frappuccinos sounded delicious. I just tell you that.
Yeah, not a coffee drinker, but that sounds amazing. I would definitely have loved to try it. It just kind of sucks that it's limited time. That'd be great.
Yeah, no, they were just trying to do a fun little thing, I think. So
I think it was trying to stimulate travel.
Yeah, probably. But
move up and around the country.
Imagine if you kept that, then people would come to Japan just to do a Starbucks pilgrimage, a Starbucks prefecture pilgrimage. Right. That'd be a cool draw, but hey, missed opportunities. So,
yep.
Pokemon Center sells life-size jumbo Pokemon plushies. What's up with that?
Heck yeah. Well, y'all know that this year was the anniversary for Pokemon, 25 years. Whoop whoop. Mm-hmm. We did an episode way back in the beginning of the year, celebrating all things Pokemon. And so yeah, they have these jumbo life-size plushies of Pokemon. And the first one that caught my attention was Arcanine, because I freaking love fire type Pokemon. And I think it was $500. And I kind of looked at my husband and was like, yeah? And he's like, no. So he shot me down.
They need a life-size Snorlax.
I think they have that too.
Oh my
I'm not
God,
100% sure, but I think so. But the one that is catching a lot of attention is this life-size Lucario that they just released.
Did these just come out?
He just came out, the life-size one.
Oh, okay.
And he's a human-sized Pokemon. He's a...
how
he
tall?
Looks like... Yeah, he's tall. He's life-sized.
If
and
Lucario's
it's crazy.
Taller than me, then I'm I don't know, I feel a little strange about that,
I don't know, but it was so crazy because I saw it, the advertisements for this Lucario one, and I'm just that's kind of creepy because he's
yeah.
They have pictures of him with a Japanese girl doing dishes, and it's what? I don't know.
That's interesting. Wow. We'll have to post that on Twitter or something. We can find that.
Oh, I definitely.
Let's do it. Let's do it for sure.
Would you rather spend your money on a life-size Arcanine or traveling to get 47 Frappuccinos?
Oh, that's a hard question. I really love
Frappuccinos,
Arcanine.
though. I mean, you get to see all of Japan.
I'm pretty sure my heart would explode with 47 Frappuccinos.
You didn't say the time limit.
But it's a life-size Arcanine. I love Arcanine.
$500. It's probably what you'd spend on 47 Frappuccinos.
Well, hold on. All right, so 47. Let's assume each Frappuccino is 500 yen. That's... God dang, why did I do myself in this and make myself do math live on a recording?
You dug yourself a hole.
It'd be 225,000 yen.
See what I did there, by the way?
Price. Now, granted, that doesn't count gas and transportation.
Dug yourself a hole.
Ha ha ha. Anyway, to save y'all from embarrassment, another weird, wacky news is this 3D billboard that's in Shinjuku right now. That's been getting so much attention lately.
It started with the cat, right?
It started with
the first.
Yeah, the cat was the first one. It was like this
massive,
it looks real, massive cat that's like on this 3D billboard, and it's like moving around. It's hanging from the building, and I mean, it looks very neat. I'll say that. Yeah. But like, then they went with it, because then they started to do like the blue blobs from Dragon Quest and
slime.
Yeah, and then I think they recently did some kind of cat character from Final Fantasy. I really don't know, but they're really playing with this 3D billboard. They're having fun over there.
Well, at least it's not a giant squid statue, which is our last fun topic, because someone thought it was a great idea to build a giant squid statue in Ishikawa Prefecture. And you know what? If it generates tourism to that town, I think it's a small town.
So do we know if Ishikawa is known for squid?
Well, they're on the coast. It's a port town right on the Sea of Japan. Maybe. So if this attracts people to travel to that town, mission accomplished, right? Like if people come to see the giant squid statue, reenact some Squid Game scenes on the squid statue itself, then hey, more power to them. But I know that one kind of dominated headlines in the fun Japan realm, in my air quotes there, earlier in the year. I remember seeing that all over the place on Twitter and social media. So if you haven't seen that, go. It looks kind of crazy. It is literally a giant squid, massive. Like, if someone used my tax dollars to buy a giant squid statue, I'd be like, what?
Which raises the popular question: why Japan? Why Japan?
Our first episode was entitled "Why Japan." So there you go. You're bringing it back home.
This is a different "Why Japan." I'm asking why Japan does these things.
Again, if it generates that, I think one thing a lot of places do, and it's the same thing I think here in the States as well, but even more so that I noticed when traveling in Japan, is that a lot of places like to be known for something.
Yeah.
Whether it's a food dish, a statue, a touristy attraction.
Yeah.
This one is going to be forever known as the Giant Squid Place. I think it's Noto is the name of the town.
You know what? Good for them.
Yeah. Well, with that, we've gone for quite a bit of time, but hey, that's okay. There's a lot to talk about in this. We literally talked about a whole year worth of news stories. So with that, though, we're going to go ahead and bring this episode to a close. It's been a very eventful year for Japan and Japan-related events, as you can see. And again, there's much more that happened. We couldn't cover everything in the time span that we had, but we wanted to highlight at least some of the things that jumped out to us. So anything to add before we sign off for this episode and the year?
Besides y'all being an embarrassment? Nope, I'm good.
Yes. So I did do the research earlier, like I mentioned, that I would find out who that person was that did the programming for the COVID vaccines in Tokyo. Her name is Lashan Toyota. She was actually an English teacher who quit her job after the pandemic started, learned coding, and then built out this program. So a pretty incredible story. If you are interested, you could just search on Google, COVID vaccine Tokyo programmer, and it's one of the first 2 or 3 stories that pop up. So check it out. She's on Twitter too. I think it's findadoc.jp is the website she developed. So again, really awesome resource that she created for the foreigner community in Tokyo and surrounding areas.
And I guess one last thing for me, I did see that President Biden did give a kintsugi gift to Kishida when he was elected. So, hey. So there's so many events that happened in 2021. Here's to 2022 being even better for us and for Japan and Japan-related news stories. So,
and tourism. I want to get over there again.
Let's get back over there. So, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will catch you next time next year and next week.
Hit us up on social media if you think of another story we forgot. We like to know.
Absolutely.
Later.
See you in 2022.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode, and thank you so much for tuning in to all of our episodes that we streamed this year. As you know, this year has been really special as we got to know you and you got to know us this year through the streaming of this podcast. Thank you so much for your support throughout our first season and our current season. We'd also like to give a very special thank you to all of our guests that joined us in our first season and our second season, in the episodes that we've already aired and the episodes to come. We hope you've had a great 2021 and that your 2022 will be even better. We have so much in store for you next year, so stay subscribed and keep following us on social media. We're at Krewe of Japan, that's KREWEOFJAPAN podcast. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Again, thank you for tuning in to today's episode. Have a happy new year and a wonderful 2022.